Hello and welcome back to the TorontoWebsiteDeveloper.com. I am Peter Worski, the Toronto Website Developer specializing in Drupal. In this fourth video tutorial on an introduction to PHP, we're going to take a look at conditional statements, specifically the if statement, and how we can make our PHP scripts a little bit more dynamic. Up until now, all that we've been doing is providing PHP with a set of instructions and then letting the interpreter just go ahead and do its magic and run all of those different commands. However, if we have a user who's visiting a website, they could be doing a whole range of things. So they could be clicking on Drupal store, Drupal video tutorials, or they could be posting a comment. All of those different scenarios require our PHP scripts to do different things based on different scenarios. And so the if statement that I'm going to introduce you to is going to allow us to accommodate that. Before I do that, big favor to ask of you. If this video tutorial helps you, please give it a thumbs up or leave me a comment. Again, just like the previous video tutorial, this is like take 1,000 for me on this video tutorial because it was just so complex trying to convey the concepts of an if statement to you in plain language. So I just kept re-recording. So I need to know if this helps you or you're confused, let me know with a comment. I'll try to work through it with you. And as always, if you haven't visited TorontoWebsiteDeveloper.com, appreciate it. Any feedback on the site there is greatly appreciated, with the exception of letting me know how bad it looks. I know I've got to change that. That said, let's get into the video tutorial. Enough talk. Heading over to localhost/ytphp tutorial4.php. If you're not familiar why I'm here, check out the first video tutorial on setting up your PHP environment. That's where I have localhost setting. You'll see here I've got two statements. That is a pretty small number and that is a pretty big number. What I'd like to do is I'd like to be able to print these statements dependent upon the size of x. So x is a huge number. I want it to say that's a pretty big number. If it's a small number, I want it to say that's a pretty small number. So you'll see here with my comments, if x is less than 10, I want this to print. If it's greater than 10, I want this to print. How do you do that? In PHP, it is called an if statement. So what it looks like is if is the keyword, two brackets, and then squiggly brackets. You press enter in Eclipse, it will close your squiggly bracket. And so what this ends up being is if some statement that equates to true, do this, right? And the this is what comes between the squiggly brackets. So I'm going to take my print statement and I'm going to put it in between those squiggly brackets. Now what I'm going to do is just add some white space to make it a little bit easier to read. So the last thing I have to do is add some type of evaluation here. So if I want x is less than 10, then do this. Less than and greater than are two things we didn't talk about in the previous video tutorial in terms of operators. They're pretty straightforward, just like you would think they are. Less than, greater than, you could have greater than equal to, you could have less than equal to, right? That's pretty much it. You could also do the two of them together, which means not equal to. So not 10 would be like that. So anyways, pretty straightforward. Here I've got if x is less than 10, that is a pretty small number. Let's go ahead and save that. I know x is 1. If I reload my page, I'm not going to get my problem here, and that's because it worked. It's let's change x to 11. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Reload this, and that is a pretty big number. The reason why I was getting both is because it was looking to see that x is minus 10, printing this, but I don't have a conditional around this, so it's still printing that as well. So this is a conditional, if this. Now what I'd like to do is also add if x is greater than 10, do this. So I can do that with another if statement and go if x is greater than 10, then do this, right? But typically what you'll end up seeing and what I recommend in PHP, and you'll see I can go ahead and I can reload this and it's the same. It'll work. And if I go 1, I can reload that. It's a small number. What you'll see is these chained together. So what ends up happening here is you can have if x is less than 10, do this, else if, and then bring this up, x is greater than 10, that is a pretty big number. And now they're chained together. So if, else, and the way that you would complete this is if you have some other type of scenario. So it just so happens that this does not capture 10. We can say else print you entered 10, right? And we'll just do a BR just like the other lines just in case. So what we can do is go and enter this as 10, save that, and reload this, and we'll see you entered 10. So what this actually means, the way this actually works, is you have if some condition equals true, do this block of code in between the squiggly brackets. If it's not true, it will check this statement, else if. If this is true, it will do this block of code. If neither one of those are true, it will do this, right? So it finishes checking. The minute it hits a true, it will execute that code and it will stop looking at the rest of them, right? So again, if this is 1, we'll see we reload. That is a pretty small number. Prints this. That's the only one that's true, so that's the only thing it does. That's an if statement in PHP. Now, this was a pretty basic example where I was defining what X would be. The reason why this is so powerful is because you can get something that's dynamic. So here I've got a good example where I've created an HTML form, and if I go to tutorial 4A, I'm probably going to get an error here. Don't worry about that. Let's just do this. You can see that is a pretty small number. And that's because I forgot to update my code. I apologize. 1 second here. You can see, nice, seems like you got some instructions. So what this actually does is I have an HTML form, asks the user to enter a number between 1 and 10, and then I've got these if statements to check what they're actually entering. So here, if the number they entered is less than 0, don't worry about what this post number is. But if they entered less than 0, that's a negative number. If they entered a number that's greater than or equal to 0, and it's greater than 10, again, I haven't introduced you to this and symbol. We're going to cover that in the next video tutorial. But if it's less than 10, less than or equal to, nice, seems like you can listen to the instructions. If it's greater than 11, but less than 100, try again, pal. Else, you stupid or something, boy. So let's enter in 500. Enter, you stupid or something, boy. Forrest Gump would say no. We can enter 1, hit submit. Nice, seems like you know how to listen to instructions. -5, that is a negative number. So again, these if statements allow us to check some condition and then execute some code conditionally. That's why they're powerful. That's the if statement. If you take nothing else away from this, just remember that you have if some condition is true, do something. That's your if statement construct. That's what it's going to look like. You can throw in else ifs here. Again, some condition. And then you can have a catch-all at the end that is represented by the else. So if these two don't actually evaluate to true, then do this. All other scenarios, do this. And that's what we saw in 4 with else, and that's what we saw here, you stupid or something, boy, if it's greater than 100. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Again, this is like the 7,000th time I've gone ahead and recorded this video tutorial, trying to break it down to its most basic. In the next video tutorial, what we're going to do is expand on this. I'm going to show you what's actually called nesting if statements. Again, hopefully I can convey that in something that's pretty simplistic. We're also going to look at the switch statement instead of ifs, and I'm also going to show you the short form for an if statement. So again, if this video tutorial helped you, please give me a comment, let me know. Hopefully it's not too confusing. We can work through those issues. Or a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the channel. Always appreciate those. Love seeing the account go up. We'll see you for the next video tutorial. Thanks very much for watching.